Welcome into another edition of the Leadership Library, hosted by CEO and author Rocky Romanella. Rocky is the author of the book Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership, and has over 40 years of business experience as a prominent member of the UPS Supply Chain Solutions team, as well as the CEO of Unitech Global Services. So sit back, grab your notebook, and take a seat, and get ready for this edition of the Leadership Library.
Welcome to the Leadership Library podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Romanella. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that's probably going to take us 3 or 4 podcasts to go through, but I think it's such an important topic. I think it's clearly one of the differentiators in leaders. It's one of the differentiators in organizations, and that's that whole concept of what are your leadership expectations? What are your values, and what's the character of you as a leader and that of the organization? And I think it's such a difficult topic in today's world because while I agree we'll probably never get to the point where we're all in offices together and having the ability to have those conversations and discuss these kinds of topics to no one coming into the office, there's got to be a hybrid of that or some opportunity to engage in these kinds of conversations, because it's really all about leadership and leaders' values, leaders' characters, and leaders' ability to set their expectations. And so I think that's such an important topic. So over the next few podcasts, let's talk a little bit about how you as a leader set that organization. Look, all organizations at some point, and I'm not sure the term is even used as much anymore, want to be that, employer of choice, a place where people would want to, would recommend. We used to always say, hey, we're a place that people would recommend their family or friends to. If we are, then that's a good place to work, right? Because nobody wants to recommend their family member or a friend of theirs. Go work for why don't you come work for my company? It's a terrible place to work, and nobody really wants to work there. I think it's important that you establish that we're the type of company that people would recommend their family or friends to. It's a kind of company that treat people with dignity and respect. But you have to set the expectations of what the organization and what your leaders are going to look like by the way you manage and the way you can describe to them what exceptional leadership looks like. And I think that's so important. How do we hold ourselves and our peers accountable? There's sports teams all over the world that do things like that. It's funny, people always talk about the Yankees, and I'm not a Yankee fan, but people talk about, well, how's that player going to go work for the Yankees because now they got ashamed? Or, I remember in a conversation I had with Coach Wooden years ago. It was an honor to talk to Coach Wooden, and he talked a little bit about, some of his key players not, coming in and not wanting to do things in a certain way. And it's really the expectation you set, why you do the things that you do. And I think that's so important for people to understand. There's reasons why we do things. They're not because we're taking away your individuality. It's just you're part of an organization, and this is what our organization stands for, and this is what good leadership looks like. When I say looks like, I don't mean as their physical presence. I mean how we conduct ourselves and how we, handle ourselves as a leader. And so I think it's so important that you can describe what good looks like in terms of leadership, and you have to exemplify that. You have to live it. People have to see that you not only understand it, you preach it or you talk about it, but you live it and you walk it every single day. And I think that's so important. It's for example, you look at teams and, their uniforms are put together the right way. They practice the right way. Coach Wooden used to always say, we didn't practice for a long time, but when we practice for an hour, some teams practice for 3 or 4 hours. When we practice for an hour, we practice intently. We practice with great planning, and we practice with the purpose of getting, something accomplished. And we only needed an hour to do that. That's what I think is what I'm talking about when it comes to having the ability to set what good leadership looks like and what your leadership expectations are. So I think that whole process is important to do. It may be difficult because of remote people working remotely, but it's still important and still has to be done. Thanks for listening. In our next set of podcasts, we're going to talk about values and character. But I think setting the leadership expectations starts the process, and it's incumbent upon us as leader to make sure everybody clearly understands what the expectations are of the organization and what your expectations are of the leader. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, I'm sure this is somewhat of a little bit of a controversial topic with the way things are going, with the way we do things today versus the way we did them 10 years ago or whatever. It's not so much what we used to do. It's still how we do it, why we do it, and the professional, thoughtful way we do it with our people. Thanks. Look forward to hearing from you on this topic.